Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dorothy. In today's video I'll be showing you all how I drafted and sewed this beautiful bustier dress I am putting on right now. If this is something you're interested in, stay back while we get into the video shortly. If you're coming across this channel for the first time, you are welcome. On this channel I post everything dressmaking and styling. If this is something you're interested in, click on the subscribe button to get notified whenever I drop a new video. To my existing and recent subscribers, hey guys, how are you all doing? And I want to use this medium to appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys for all you do for this channel. Now let's get started with the video. For this tutorial, I'll be using this beautiful Ankara fabric and I'll be using 2 yards of it. If you're on a bigger size, 3 to 4 yards should be enough. I will be using this pattern paper to draft the bustier before I transfer it to my fabric. So on this line you see me pointing, I will really line off about ½ an inch, and this line will serve as my starting line or shoulder line. From the shoulder line, I will measure from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches, shoulder to my underbust, which is 13.5 inches, shoulder to my waist or half length, which is 17 inches, but because I will be adding a side dart, I will add 1 inch to it, making it 18 inches. So I mark 18 inches as the half length. I will connect the line using my ruler horizontally like this. Let me just label this out. On my shoulder line or starting line, I divided my shoulder measurement by 2 and marked it. My shoulder is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. From the point I mark my shoulder measurements, I'll come down by 1 inch. Then I went ahead to mark 3 inches for my neck width. I will not be needing this neck width measurement. I'm just using it to take my shoulder slope. So I will use my ruler to connect the 1 inch point to the neckline, and that is my shoulder slope. From the shoulder slope, I came down by 7.5 inches for the armhole line. To get the armhole line, you divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Whatever figure you get, that is your armhole line. Then I will use my ruler to connect the line straight like this, and I will also be extending this line horizontally. The straight line is the armhole line, while the horizontal line is the chest line or upper bust line. Remember, I came down by 7.5 inches for the armhole line, so I will divide the armhole line by 2 and mark the midpoint. On that midpoint, I will go in by ½ an inch. On my chest line, I divided my bust circumference by 4 and marked it. Then I will use my curve ruler to connect this point, and this point to create the armhole depth. Now let's create the dart. To create our dart, you will divide the nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and mark it on the bust point, under bust, and on the waistline. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches. Divided by 2 is 4 inches. That is why you see me marking 4 inches on my bust point, under bust, and on my waistline. I will use my ruler to connect the 3 points like this. Okay guys, this side you see me directing is my center front, and this other side is my side front. Let me just label this out. On my underbust line at the center front, I will mark ½ an inch on that line, and I will also be marking ½ an inch on the waistline. On my underbust line at the side front, I mark 1.5 inch on the line, and I'll also be marking 1.5 inch on the waistline. Then I will use my ruler to connect the 2 lines together like this. On my bust point, I came down by 1 inch. This is to prevent a funny look after sewing the bustier area. So I will use my curve ruler to connect a curved line to the 1 inch I just came down on. On my shoulder slope area, I will measure and divide it by 2. Whatever I get, I will mark the midpoint. I will use my ruler to connect a straight line from the midpoint to the bust point. Now let's create the neckline. You know the neckline on the thumbnail is a square neckline, so on my chest line I will go up by 2 inches. If you want to reveal a little bit of cleavage or flesh, you can maintain the chest line or even go below the chest line. But for me, going up by 2 inches is perfect, so I will rule a line across like this. To tighten the overbust, I will take my dart on that 2-inch line I went up by. So I mark 0.5 inch on the center front and 0.5 inch on the side front. I hope you get what I'm doing right here. So I will use my curve ruler to connect this point to the bust point. Now that the dart is out of the way, let's mark the remaining bodice measurements. On my chest line, I divided my bust circumference by 4 and marked it. I also measured the dart I took to tighten the over bust, and then I replaced it on my chest line. On the waistline, I divided my waist measurement by 4 and marked it. For the waist dart that I took, I measured it, and I will also be replacing it on my waistline. So now I will use my curve ruler to connect the point like this. To take the side darts, the 1 inch I added to the length of my upper bodice, which is my half length. I will come down on my bust point and mark it. Then I will connect this point to the midpoint of my bust point just like this. Let me blend this my over bust dart very well. And these are the parts I'll be cutting out. But before I cut out, let's get rid of the side darts. Why? Because we don't want the side front of to be longer than the center front when sewing the pieces. So I will cut through the midpoint of my shoulder line all the way to the midpoint of my bust point. Make sure you don't cut out everything. And I will also cut the side dart all the way to the midpoint of my bust point. So right now I'll go ahead and cover up the side dart like this. After covering, you can go ahead and use pin or tape to tape it down. Don't mind what I am doing right here. So right away I'll just go ahead and cut out my pattern. To cut this dart line out, I'll blend the dart to the shoulder line like this, then I'll go ahead and cut it out. These are my front pieces. Let's go ahead and cut the back piece. I will be drafting my back piece on this fresh pattern paper. So first of all, go ahead and mark 2 inches for the zipper all around, just as you can see me doing. Okay, let me connect my zipper line and let me just label it out. On this edge, I will really line off about 1/2 inch, and this line will serve as my starting line or shoulder line. From the shoulder line, I will mark my bust point measurement, which is 10 inches, and my waistline measurement, which is 17 inches. Now I will be maintaining my half length measurement, which is 17 inches. This is because the back does not have a side dart. I will connect the line horizontally like this, and I'm just repeating what I did for my front piece. So on my shoulder line or starting line, I divided my shoulder measurement by 2 and I marked it. Then from that point, I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I will then mark 3 inches for my neck width, which I will not be using. I will connect the 1 inch to my neck width measurement. From the 1 inch point, I will come down by 7.5 inches for my armhole line. You already know how to get the armhole line, right? You divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5 inch, okay? So on my chest line, I will divide my bust circumference by 4 and mark it. And I will measure the armhole line and mark the midpoint. From the midpoint, I will go in by 1/2 inch. Then I will use my curve ruler to create my armhole depth. On my bust point and my waistline, I divided my nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and marked it. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches, divided by 2 is 4 inches. Then I connect the point on a straight line, but I'll be extending the dart up to my chest line. That is where I want my dart to stop for the back pieces. Now for the dart on my waistline, I mark 1/2 inch on both sides. That is the center back and the side dart. Then I will use my ruler to connect the point like this. Now let's take the bodice measurement. I divided my bust circumference by 4. My bust circumference is 36, divided by 4 is 9 inches. So I marked the 9 inches both on my chest line and my bust point. I did the same thing for my waistline. I divided my waist circumference by 4. My waist circumference is 30. 30 divided by 4 is 7.5 inches. I marked 7.5 inches on my waistline. The dart that I took on my waistline, I measured it and I had to replace it. So right now I'll go ahead and connect the point using my curve ruler like this. Now to create the back neckline, I measured my front piece's shoulder and I had 2.25 inches. I marked this on my shoulder line like this. I don't want my depth to be that deep, so I measured 6 inches for my neck depth. Then I will use my curve ruler to curve the straight round neckline like you are seeing like this. I will extend the line to the zipper allowance. To avoid zip bulge on my zipper allowance, I mark 1 inch and I will use my curve ruler to connect it like this. I will be cutting this out and I will go on to cut my pattern. Okay guys, these are my pattern. As you can see, I did not add any sewing allowance, but on my fabric I will be adding all the necessary sewing allowance. I will be drafting my skirt pieces directly on the fabric. Already I have folded my fabric into 4 and this part is the back pieces, and as you can see it has an opening and a zipper allowance of about 2 inches, while this part is my front pieces. To measure this, you use your biggest body measurement, which is the hip. My hip is 40. Then I added sewing allowance for both the front and the back pieces. Okay, this is the 2 inches zipper allowance. So right now let's go ahead and mark the horizontal measurement. From my starting line or waistline, I will come down by 9 inches for my hip line and 19 inches for the knee line. Then to the length of the skirt, which is 28 inches, and I added 2 inches for the turning allowance. The total length of this dress I'm working with is 45 inches. Okay, so I will connect the line across like so. On my waistline, I divided my round waist measurement by 4 and marked it. I added 1 inch dart allowance and 2 inches sewing allowance as well. I'm sorry that I am covering my camera right here. On my hip line, I divided my round hip measurement by 4 and I marked it, and I added 2 inches sewing allowance as well. Make sure you are using your own body measurement or you are using the client's body measurement. Okay, for me, I am using my body measurement. On my nail line, I just marked my waist measurement there. Okay, and I'll be doing the same thing for the length of the dress as well. So right now I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect all the points that I have marked. For the waist dart, I will divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 4 and marked it. Then I'll go ahead and notch that area. Then on my back piece, I'll go ahead and remove 1 inch from the zipper allowance. This is to avoid zip bulge after I am done sewing it. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out, and that is all for my skirt pieces. I will go ahead and cut lining for it. So guys, these are my pieces after cutting them on my fabric, and as you can see, I have added all the necessary sewing allowance. I have also cut lining pieces for it, and also I iron paper gum on all my pieces. But for the front pieces, I added embroidery to the bust area, and while I was cutting these pieces, I make sure I notch all the important area, which are my bust points and my other bust points. So let me keep the back pieces and the lining aside and let's work on the front pieces. On my front pieces, I place this one side of my side front on the center front, right side facing each other, and I use my pin to hold them together. You can see how I notched the bust point, and I also notched the under bust point as well. So I make sure that I pin the notch area first before I arrange this curvy area. This will make your bustier come out perfectly after sewing. And I will also be doing the same thing for the second side front. Then I'll take it to my sewing machine and go and run a stitch. For the back pieces, I will place my lining on it like this, right side facing each other. Then I will go on and stitch the neck area and this side, and I will leave the armhole area and that side open. I'm done sewing the bust here. Right now I will go ahead and notch it, all this curvy area. Then I will take it to the ironing table and iron it out. I will also be doing the same thing for the lining piece. I'm done sewing my back pieces as well, and as you can see, I went ahead to sew the neck area and the side, and I left the armhole and the other side open. So right now I'll go ahead and notch the neck area, then I'll turn it and go and iron it out. Okay guys, I am done ironing my bustier, and you can see how the bustier is sitting perfectly and everything is looking neat. And I have also stitched and ironed the lining piece as well. So now I will place the lining piece on it like this, right side facing each other, and I will be using my pin to pin the neck area. I'll also be pinning all the shoulder area like so, and I will also be pinning the armhole and the sides, and I will go on to stitch all the sides that I have pinned. I am done ironing my back pieces as well, and as I was ironing it, I decided to iron the place I notched my darts. You can see the guitar line. So right now I'll go ahead and sew the darts, and my darts will be 7.5 inches long. Remember that the darts stop at the chest line. This is my front piece after attaching the lining. So right now I will turn it to the right face. This is too small, so I had to use my scissors to push this shoulder out. After turning it to the right side, I will go ahead and iron all the seams line. This is how my front piece is looking after ironing all the seams line, and for the back piece I have gone ahead to sew the dart as well. So right now let's go ahead and join the back piece to the front piece. I will place one side of my back pieces on the front one like this, right sides facing each other. So I will place the front shoulder on the back shoulder like this, and I will use the lining of the back shoulder to cover the front one. Then I will use my pin to hold them together. After joining the shoulders, I will now push my front piece in like this, and I will go ahead and join the back fabric armhole to the lining. I hope you get this. What I'm trying to explain is, after joining the front and the back shoulder, you will now arrange the back pieces, armhole and the lining together, right side facing each other, and you'll now go ahead and pin them all through. And after that, I will arrange the side also as well and pin them. While doing this, make sure you take your time and do it, okay, because I am taking my time and arranging every piece very well before I pin them. After arranging everything, that is the shoulder, the armhole and the side, I'll take it to the sewing machine and go and run a stitch, okay. This is it guys, after sewing the shoulder, the armhole and the side. So right now I'll notch all this curvy area, that is my armhole area, then I will pull out my front piece. This is the result. You can see that our shoulder have a seamless finishing. So right now I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the second side, that is the back and the front piece, okay. For my skirt pieces, I have cut the lining for it, but I reduced the length of the lining by 2 inches. I will be using the fabric to cover for the shortage. Remember, I added 2 inches to the length of the fabric for turning when I was cutting. So right now, I will place the fabric and the lining together, right side facing each other, and I will arrange my fabric and the lining together properly. Then I'll go ahead and stitch this down part down. So guys, this is it after stitching the length of these pieces, that is the fabric and the lining together. So now I will adjust the lining to the waistline of the fabric so the lining and the fabric can be equal. After that, I will go ahead and sew the side, leaving the waist area for turning. So guys, I'm done sewing the side. So now I will turn it to the right side and I will iron it out. I will be doing the same thing for the two back pieces as well. For the skirt dart, I already notched the area, so I will go on and sew the dart, and my dart will be 5 inches long. And I will also be sewing the dart of my back pieces as well. So this is it guys, after stitching my dart. So right now I'll go ahead and place my skirt and my half length, that is my upper bodice, together, right side facing each other. So right now I'll bring my upper bodice like this and place it on my skirt like this. Then I'll go ahead and stitch this, and I'll also be doing the same thing for my two back pieces as well. So this is it guys, after stitching my upper bodice to the skirt pieces. Okay, so what I did behind the camera was that I went ahead to pin the side of this dress so that I'll be able to arrange them properly and take my remaining body measurements, okay. So after arranging it properly, I'll go ahead and divide my horizontal measurement by 2. So on my bust point, I divided my bust circumference by 2, which is 18. My bust is 36 divided by 2, which is 18, and I marked it on both sides. Then on my waistline, I divided my waist circumference by 2. Also, my waist is 30 divided by 2 is 15, so I marked 15 and leaving allowances on the side like this. On my hip line, I divided my hip circumference by 2 as well. My hip is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So I went ahead to mark all the measurements. Then on the length of the dress, I just maintain my waist measurements on that line, just like I did when I was cutting it, okay? So I'll just use my chalk to connect the lines like this. Then I will take it to my sewing machine and go and sew the sides. So guys, I am done stitching the side of my bustier, and as you can see, I have also stitched the area for my zipper allowance. That is the 2 inches that I left for my zipper. I stitched it down, then I opened the side where I'll be placing my zipper. So right now I'll go ahead and place my zipper. So guys, I am done fixing the zipper to the dress. You can see how beautiful and how neat the bustier turned out. This bustier has a kimono, just as you can see on the thumbnail, but I couldn't film the kimono part of it because I don't want this video to be too long. So in my next video, I'll be uploading the kimono part of it. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to get notified when that video is up. And if you have any question concerning this tutorial, leave the question at the comment section and I will reply to all of them. And if this video was helpful, please appreciate my effort by commenting and liking this video. Thanks for watching. See you guys next on my next one.